What if the most dangerous part of an exorcism isn't the demon, but the person trying to cast it out? Every year, dioceses around the world get thousands of desperate requests for exorcisms. Almost all of them are denied, and it's not because the church has suddenly stopped believing in evil. It's because it knows, from centuries of grim experience, the terrifying consequences of confronting that evil without following a very specific and very strict set of ancient rules. Introduction. The central question. We all know the scene from the movies. The lone priest, cross in one hand, holy water in the other, doing battle with some demonic force. It's the ultimate image of faith versus fear. So why would the very institution that invented this rite be so hesitant to actually use it? It sounds like a total contradiction. If the forces of evil are real, shouldn't the church be using every weapon it has to fight back? The answer is yes, but the key to understanding the church's position is one word: caution. This is a caution born from centuries of experience, some devastating mistakes, and a deep respect for the spiritual powers involved. So let's uncover the hidden reasons the church keeps this powerful and dangerous ritual under such tight control. Section 1. The problem. A cautionary tale. To get why the Vatican is so cautious, you have to look at the tragedies that happen when things go wrong. The case of Anneliese Michel from the 1970s is one of the most haunting. A young German woman, Anneliese was diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy and severe psychosis, and spent years in psychiatric hospitals. But her condition just got worse. She started to hate religious symbols, she heard voices, and her family was convinced she was possessed. After the church repeatedly denied their requests, they finally found 2 priests who agreed with them and got permission from a local bishop to perform a major exorcism. Over the next 10 months, Anneliese endured 67 grueling exorcism sessions. Her parents stopped her medical treatment, putting all their faith in the rite. Tragically, Anneliese Michel died of malnutrition and dehydration. Her parents and the 2 priests were later convicted of negligent homicide. The Anneliese Michel case was a horrifying wake-up call for the church. It's a terrible reminder of what happens when the lines between profound mental illness and spiritual attack get blurred. It shows the massive danger of starting an exorcism without being absolutely certain. A danger not just to the soul, but to life itself. Because of cases like this, the church's first move isn't to send a priest, but to ask a completely different question. Are we sure we know what we're fighting? Section 2. The first line of defense, ruling out the mind. The biggest reason most exorcism requests are turned down is that the church, especially today, assumes a natural explanation first. Before a priest even gets involved, the Vatican's official rulebook, which was updated in 1999, makes it crystal clear. The person has to go through a complete medical and psychiatric evaluation. Sure, the church has a list of potential signs of possession: speaking in languages they've never learned, knowing things they shouldn't, or having strength that's beyond natural. But priests are explicitly warned that these can also be symptoms of mental or physical illness. Schizophrenia can cause someone to hear voices. Certain neurological problems can lead to shocking changes in personality or strength. This is why dioceses now work with teams of doctors and psychiatrists to look into these claims. An exorcist isn't a substitute for a doctor. His job only starts where science's job ends. The church understands that putting someone who needs medical care through a terrifying spiritual ritual isn't just pointless. It can be deeply harmful, making their trauma worse and keeping them from the help they actually need. This cautious, scientific-first approach filters out the vast majority of cases, saving the rite of exorcism for those incredibly rare instances where every other explanation has been ruled out. Section 3. The Law of the Church. A question of authority. Even if doctors and psychologists are stumped, that still doesn't mean an exorcism is a go. There's a second, even higher hurdle: Canon Law 1172. This law is non-negotiable. No one can legally perform a major exorcism without getting special and express permission from the bishop of the diocese. That permission is only given to a specific priest or the bishop himself. This isn't just religious red tape. It's a core theological belief. A priest doesn't fight a demon with his own strength. He fights with the authority of the entire church, which is given to him by his bishop. The Vatican warns that anyone else, whether it's a layperson or even a priest acting alone, is strictly forbidden from performing the rite. Trying to do so is seen as an act of arrogance that is spiritually reckless. The thinking is that an unsanctioned exorcism is a rogue operation. It doesn't have the spiritual protection of the church, which could leave both the exorcist and the afflicted person even more vulnerable. The International Association of Exorcists, an organization officially recognized by the Vatican in 2014, constantly hammers this home. An exorcist must act as a representative of the church, not as a freelancer. This ensures the fight is never just one man versus a demon, but a declaration of God's authority. Section 4. The profile of an exorcist, a specialized ministry. So who is the kind of priest a bishop would actually authorize? The idea of a rogue, maverick demon hunter is pure Hollywood. The church has a very demanding profile for its exorcists. Canon 1172 says the priest must be known for his piety, knowledge, prudence, and integrity of life. He needs to be a man of mature years, respected for his moral character. On top of that, this is a highly specialized job that requires formal training. The Vatican supports courses where priests learn theology, psychology, and practical methods from veteran exorcists. They are taught to be incredibly skeptical. The official ritual book itself warns the priest that he should not believe too readily that a person is possessed. The goal is to form men who are humble, not arrogant, who rely on God's power, not their own, and who are wise enough to tell the difference between mental illness and real possession. This is why the number of official exorcists is so tiny. The Church doesn't see this as a regular duty, but as a rare and specific calling for those spiritually and psychologically tough enough for one of the most draining ministries there is. Lay people are not allowed to be exorcists, though they can sometimes be present to help with prayers. Section 5. Preventing spectacle. The sin of sensationalism. There's one final rule that might seem almost old-fashioned today: secrecy. The 1999 guidelines explicitly forbid the media from being present during an exorcism to prevent the rite from becoming a spectacle. This rule gets to the heart of one of the Church's deepest fears: sensationalism. In the Church's view, an exorcism is a sacred and serious act of healing. It's a private moment of intense suffering, meant to be surrounded by prayer. Turning it into a public show cheapens the rite and exploits the person at the center of it. The International Association of Exorcists even publishes guidelines to encourage responsible and discreet practices, hoping to clear up the wild myths spread by the media. The Church knows that our fascination with the demonic is powerful, but it believes that focusing on the devil's theatrics instead of Christ's healing power is a spiritual trap. It leads to morbid curiosity and superstition, which has nothing to do with real faith. By keeping exorcisms out of the spotlight, the Church tries to protect the dignity of the person suffering, preserve the sacredness of the ritual, and keep the focus where it belongs: on God's mercy, not the devil's drama. Conclusion. So why does the Church put the brakes on most exorcisms? The answer is pretty clear. It isn't about denying evil exists. It's an act of profound responsibility. The Church's strict rules are a shield with many layers. First, a shield of science to protect the mentally ill from a ritual they don't need. Second, a shield of authority to make sure the battle is fought with the full spiritual power of the Church. Third, a shield of prudence, giving this grave duty only to priests who are uniquely trained and prepared. And finally, a shield of reverence to protect a sacred rite and a suffering person from becoming a public spectacle. The Vatican's tight grip isn't a sign of fear, but of wisdom. It reflects a deep understanding that confronting evil isn't a movie plot. It's a delicate, dangerous, and sacred duty that demands more caution, prayer, and humility than almost any other act of faith. The rules aren't there to deny help, but to make sure that when help is given, it's done with the greatest possible care for the soul in peril. Call to action. What are your thoughts on all this? Do you think the Church's strict rules are a necessary protection, or do they stop people from getting the help they need? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you want to explore more mysteries of faith, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation.